all of those. So thanks once again, and here's the film.
I'm glad everybody came and showed out. November the 14th, 1971, 12:21 a.m. I brought a king in. Amen. And I'm very, very, very proud of my king. I love you, baby.
I haven't celebrated my birthday since I was about 15, 16. I haven't even taken no acknowledgement of it. You know, that is what prison done to me. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. Childhood was pretty good in the 70s. Childhood was wonderful until like the 80s.
Steve Young reports on a new kind of cocaine called crack, a drug so pure and so strong it might just as well be called
Crack, you know, it engulfed the neighborhood when the violence came along with crack. These are like the last 3 pictures I took before I got locked out. These guys I went to school with, guys in the neighborhood, and now half of them are dead. This is a picture of my uncle, we call him Junior. I had to identify his body at the morgue. Someone robbed him and shot him. After that, I began to go through like a downward spiral, and then I started selling drugs. It was in 1989, I was selling drugs, and I was approached by 3 gentlemen, and the guy ended up pulling out a gun and shot 3 times at me. And it really wasn't about killing him, Mr. English, and I want to be respectful and give him his name. But Mr. English reached for a weapon, and in turn, I fired 1 shot. And then he fell and perished. As a juvenile, from the date of arrest until the date of release, I was serving my time and sentence in all adult institutions. 31 years, 6 months, 15 days, and 5 hours.
This picture is myself, my 2 sisters, my little brother, my mom, and my stepfather. This picture was taken right after I was released. I was incarcerated at the age of 9, released when I was 11. My name is Rosita Timmons. I'm 55 years old, and I've spent over half of my life in prison. I come here for healing. At the age of 15, I was brought into this park. I was raped, tortured, tied to a tree and left for dead. So I come to this park to let that little girl that was harmed know that you safe now. You go ahead and ride in the passenger seat and let me do the driving. I was 15 years old when I was first sent to an adult prison. Even at 9 years old going to jail, they didn't talk about trauma. A nurse would come, made sure you physically okay, but mentally they didn't, so they just kept me sedated. I grew up in an era where heroin and cocaine just came out of nowhere, and it's like everyone was doing it. And little did my mother know that while they were partying downstairs. I was being sexually abused upstairs. I love you, Mom. I miss you. I tried talking to my mom, but my mother was in active addiction. So she really could not comprehend what I was saying to her. And the more I tried to tell my father what had happened to me, he would not believe that his son was capable of anything like that. So I got punished for being raped. At 17 years old, I defended myself against my brother. And as a result of me defending myself, my brother died, and I was taken to prison. I ended up doing 26 and a half years.
It's incredibly important that even if kids commit wrongdoing or are accused of wrongdoing, that we don't treat them like beasts or monsters. Young people who are in the criminal justice system, 75 to 93% of them are experiencing high adverse childhood experiences. ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, means that certain set of factors that kids experience have a pretty traumatic impact on them.
Prior to your 18th birthday, that a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you. Yes.
The brain itself does not develop fully until about 25 or 26. And so kids are going to make mistakes. Young people exposed to trauma are gonna be prone to make even bigger mistakes. Now, that doesn't mean that accountability isn't important. What it does mean is that the focus has to be on the proper services that kids need to get to those underlying issues that, after all, are bringing them into the criminal justice system to begin with.
I grew up in an illegal family. Everything was illegal. I knew how to do the manufacturing and the selling the drugs and the collecting the monies, but I still could not write my own name. This picture is right after I got my GED. I took that test 22 times and failed and failed and failed, but something in me would not allow me to give up. And on the 23rd time, I passed it. And you would have thought I hit the lotto, you know, and today I read everything. And I love writing poetry. It's something that helps me heal because I basically write a letter to myself.
Over the last 8 years, we have diverted thousands of young people from the traditional throw the book and prosecute and max sentence approach. That could be counseling, mental health support, drug abuse services, or just good old-fashioned mentoring. The young people who completed the intense services that were tailored to their needs, by a factor of 75 to 80%, were less likely to recidivate.
When life is something that you dread and you have to ask why me, then when the world seems right and true, when you feel happy being you, please ask yourself, why me then too?
The evidence is overwhelming. Where health-based approaches to violence are utilized, particularly with kids, communities are safer.
All these individuals who was juveniles that was in one prison, some have died while trying to get their freedom. Did anyone assess me for trauma or anything like that when I was arrested? No. My rehabilitation was my responsibility. And so while in prison, I created an organization called Positive Change, and it stood for Positive Citizens Helping a New Generation Evolve. And so at that time, I wrote this legislation, which was then titled Youthful Offenders Rehabilitation and Second Chance Act, what is now known as the Juvenile Restoration Act. I wrote this while in prison This bill passed in 2021 that says individual who's a juvenile should be given a second chance because their brain wasn't completely developed.
While I am encouraged that more jurisdictions are focusing on the importance of ACEs or adverse childhood experiences, we really need to do more work around standardizing the right questions to ask that lead to the right diagnosis, that leads to the right mix of services that can help a kid grow beyond their trauma.
Walking out of prison, I told guys, I don't have no money to send nobody, but I'm gonna give you my energy. I'm gonna give you my effort. And I haven't stopped. I work with men and women who come home from prison, helping them on the road to getting their life together. Are you receiving your assistance? Because ain't no use you getting all these benefits and not using them. I volunteer with a nonprofit organization. We do toy drives. We give away food on Thanksgiving. It's a small thing. It's like my token of trying to repair some of the damage that I caused as a child, as a juvenile. In my leisure time, I do different things to heal myself, to bring comfort to myself. And some things I do just because they were denied from me for so long. I go horseback riding, and it's just being out there alone in nature. It's a part of my healing process. It's a part of me learning how to live life in the free world as an adult man.
I'm in transitional housing. They assign you a case manager. They assign you a therapist, a certified therapist. We have groups like on relationships, substance abuse. If I had the resources when I was younger that I do have now, I believe that my life would have been different. I cannot say that everything would have been different, but I believe I'd have been on a better path. This picture is the first time my baby girl, my daughter, was able to come and see me during my incarceration. I had her in prison, and this is the first time I had. This is the first time I had seen my daughter. One of the best things about being out of prison is family.
I downloaded Roblox.
You downloaded what?
Roblox.
What's Roblox?
It's a game.
Oh, okay. And all the love and tender care and all that stuff that come with being a mom that I wasn't able to do for my children, I do for my grandchildren. I'm becoming the woman that I was always meant to be. And every day is not peaches and creams for me because sometimes I still have nightmares. But I'm getting there one day at a time.
I love you.
I love you too, granddaughter.
I love you 100%.
Young people are only going to become adults. And the best thing to do is to teach them, love them, counsel them, give them the services that they need so that they can be law-abiding, contributing members to our society when they're adults.
Wow. Doesn't matter how many times I see that film, I'm always deeply moved when I watch it. We will now start our discussion with our panelists. And if I may, thank you all for being here this evening. We really appreciate you. I'm going to introduce everyone. Let's start with Mark Schindler. Mark is the Assistant Secretary of the and Chief of Staff of the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services, working directly with the Secretary of DJS to advise on and implement initiatives, reforms, and policies designed to improve the lives of youth in Maryland. Mark has extensive and varied experience in youth justice field, including as an attorney, public administrator, grant maker, advocate, researcher. He served 10 years as the executive director of the Justice Policy Institute, and as General Counsel, Chief of Staff, and Interim Director at the DC Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. In addition, he worked for almost a decade as a staff attorney with the Youth Law Center, a national civil rights law firm advocating on behalf of children and youth in juvenile justice and child welfare systems across the country. And Mark began his legal career here in Maryland as a public defender representing children in Baltimore's juvenile court. We also have, thank you, Mark, for being here. Also, we have Mr. John Ristic. John was 15 years old at the time of his arrest, and he was 16 when he was sentenced to life plus 20 years in prison. He was released on January 18th, 2023, coming up on his 1-year anniversary. He's soon getting married to a wonderful woman that he met in high school, and he's working and helping to give back. Welcome, John. We also have with us Ms. Elizabeth Hilliard, who works for the Maryland Office of the Public Defender as the Acting Director of Government Relations of the Government Relations Division. She also teaches criminal justice classes at Towson University as an adjunct professor. For the previous 6 years, she worked as the Assistant Public Defender in the Post-Conviction Defenders Division. Before coming to Baltimore, Elizabeth lived and worked in Oregon, where she clerked for Judge Aaron C. Lagenson on the Oregon Court of Appeals. Elizabeth received her law degree from Lewis and Clark Law School and her undergrad degree in criminal justice from American University. Last but not least, the star of our film, Mr. Alonzo Turner Bay, who's an advocate, an entrepreneur, and founder and director of Positive Change, Positive Citizens Helping a New Generation Evolved. Unfortunately, Miss Rosita Timmons, who was also featured in the film, cannot be with us this evening. So let's get started. My first question is for you, Alonzo. In the film, you described the incident that led to your incarceration, acknowledging that you were engaged in selling drugs at the time that it happened. There are many kinds of ACEs, including being a victim of a crime, especially violent crime. I'm curious to know, did you have any experience as a victim before becoming involved in illegal activities yourself? You shared the story of having to identify your uncle's body after he was robbed and murdered, which is a trauma in and of itself. But you know, had you ever had any more direct experiences in that? And if so, what kind of services or support was available to you to help you deal with those experiences?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I was a victim of crime before then, and but no, there was no service provided for me. There was no therapy, no treatment, or nothing like that. Even when I went to the morgue in DC I can remember going to identify my uncle's body, and the guy, I was with my aunt, my uncle's sister, and the guy had said, "We haven't cleaned his body up." I didn't know what that meant. Because, you know, here I am, 15. I don't know what that means. And when I went down the stairs and they pulled the curtain, he had his brains blowed out. And his tongue was still hanging out his mouth between his teeth. And his eyes was open. That picture will forever be ingrained in my head. And it was like, after then, life changed. Because I was just playing with my uncle 2 days before the murder. And, I just don't know. I know I didn't get no treatment. I know I didn't get no therapy. I know I didn't speak to nobody. Even to this day, I haven't gotten therapy. I haven't spoken to nobody about a lot of the traumas that I've been through before I went to prison. And as a child going into an adult prison, even going into county jail, I can remember I wasn't in county jail a month. I got in a fight with a man that was older than my father about watching music videos. So all the traumas that I've been through from a child, even as a teenager going in prison, my first day in prison, I seen a guy get busted in the head with a brick. And the correctional officer that was walking me through the yard said, "Mind your business. Come on, let's go." And till the day, I still haven't spoken to nobody or gotten any treatment or therapy. I know it's something I need, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so the services were not on the inside either, basically.
In prison, when you seek counseling from a psychologist, psychiatrist, or a social worker, regardless of what the issue may be, is a punishment. A lot of people don't understand that and realize that when you go to seek and tell somebody, "Hey, I'm not feeling good today. Everything's not all right. I'm going through some depression or anxiety." Two things happen. One, they're going to give you medication. And two, you're going to be placed in a butt-naked cell, or isolation cell, which is a concrete room, no bed, no nothing. You're going to be given a paper gown, and you're going to be sleeping on the floor for 96 hours, a mandatory 96 hours. And if it's winter, the window may be open and broke. So that's how you're going to sleep.
Wow.
Seeking treatment or therapy, even till the day, I left in 2020, and I worked suicide watch before. I've given guys the socks off my feet, the t-shirt off my back, so they can be warm. Seeking treatment and therapy in Maryland prison system, I'm speaking about Maryland, is a punishment. So that's why many of us don't seek treatment. We don't seek therapy, because we have seen too many of our friends punished, forced on medication, and placed in isolation cells for only seeking treatment for being depressed or even thinking about committing suicide. So some men commit suicide and don't get treatment.
Okay. So compounded trauma. Okay, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to move on to John. John is highlighted in the video. We know many young people who experience trauma don't receive the support they need, as Alonzo also just said. Can you speak about how access to services such as therapy can benefit youth and adults? Is John still here? Oh, there he is. You're on mute. Take your mic off mute, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, when I got incarcerated, that's where I got my help. Prior to it, it wasn't help at all. I seen a psychologist. They knew that it was predetermined that I was going to be violent somewhere down the road, but they did nothing for it. They diagnosed me almost like with cancer and gave me an aspirin for it instead of cutting it out. And that's what I needed. Prior to that, after I got incarcerated, I went to Patuxent and stayed there for 10 and a half years. I had therapy every day, and that really helped. I had to face my fears. I was left on the steps at the age of 2 years old. Still hurts today. I was abandoned by my parents because my father molested me as a young child, baby, and I wasn't told this until after my grandmother died. And I saw my father again in California, and he tried to do it again, and me and him got in a fight, and I wound up going back to Baltimore again. And it was confirmed by his actions. I didn't believe it, but it was confirmed by his actions when I was 12 years old. And I came back to Baltimore, and after that, my life just that downhill. Drugs, staying out late, doing things. I got arrested for the murder. Therapy. God, it was life-saving. It made me not, I was very impulsive. I encased myself with bricks, and each brick represented anger, abandonment, abuse. And I had to understand each and every aspect of that formula, of that brick. Each brick that I had to undo and allow me to be out of it and be free from it. I wasn't a victim no more after I started to understand everything, because I always blamed me. What was it about me did I get raped by my father? Why? Why was I abandoned? Why was I abused by my brother-in-law physically? All the anger issues that I had pinpointed me to be an explosive person. When the murder happened, it all came out on this one guy, and he was stabbed numerous times. Each stab, I was killing my father and not killing him. That's where all the anger came out. It put me in a position where I was in the room with him just as well I was in the room with my father at age 12. And that switched from him to killing my father. And after I was done, I know it sounds crazy, but I felt better. I felt like a whole relief was off of me. And then I had 11 years of therapy to understand why I did what I did, because I wouldn't hurt no one again. So each phase of my my trauma, I had to look at it through a psychological view of how did it affect me? What can I do to change it? How can I accept it? What road of recovery do I go down? Do I go the victim's road, or do I come out victorious at the end of it? Of looking at it and dealing with it. That was the hardest thing, to replay all those issues again in my head. And having a sense of self-worth after that. I felt good about John Ristic because I dealt with each stone that I encased myself with. And it jump-started me. Instead of being impulsive, I thought about things. When I was in prison, I only had 4 minor tickets. And the reason why is because I had therapy. Therapy gave me a sense of not jumping into things and thinking about consequences and how it came about, of what should I do next if something was to happen. So
Thank you.
Therapy was fantastic for me.
All right. I'm really glad about that, John. I'm gonna kind of switch for a second. I'm wondering, out of the 23 plus correctional institutions that we have in the state of Maryland, how many have intensive therapeutic programs other than Patuxent? Is Patuxent the only one?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where John received his therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And John probably can agree to this with me. Patuxent was originally designed just for a therapeutic program, and it specialized in those whose crime was sexual in nature.
Yes, I recall.
It was like in the when was it, John? Probably the mid-90s. Their program got shut down, or it got reduced.
Yeah,
because of the crime.
Yes, it did.
By another prisoner, and the judge in Prince George's County named Melbourne. She made it her goal to shut Patuxent down because one of the guys who was a sex offender, he got out, and he ended up committing another sex crime. But that therapy, that treatment is not given to 99% of the prison population in the state of Maryland. It was like select few could get the therapy that John got. I was not fortunate enough because my crime was not sexual in nature, whether I was the victim or the perpetrator. It was offered to everyone.
So between the two of you, you did well over a century in prison. So I would take it that both of you have met a lot of other justice-involved people who also have ACEs, among your peers throughout your time, throughout your incarceration. Would you
Yes.
say that was like pretty much the norm?
Yes. Like I one of the things I done while I was in prison is became active in the fight to remove the government out of the process. And in the process, I found out Maryland had over 400 juveniles that were serving a life sentence. That did not
Yes.
include those who were serving 50 years, 60 years, 80 years, or 100 years. And I've met juveniles who were sentenced to 150, 200 years in prison, which are equally life sentences, but over 400 was either given life or natural life or life without the parole, one of the three forms. And
Thank
I'm
you.
willing to say all of us have suffered some type of childhood trauma in one way or another. While in prison, we suffer another traumatic event by being forced inside of an adult institution. And then the mindset of correctional staff towards you as a child is disgusting.
Yes. Okay.
There's no question.
Thank you so much. I'm going to shift over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, your work with defense attorneys has given you a unique perspective on the justice involved population. What disparities are there with regard to ACEs, and how well does the system currently meet those needs? So these two gentlemen just talked about in the adult facilities. So you may want to speak more to juveniles who are treated in DJS. And Mark, you can also chime in on this one, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think Mr. Ristic and Mr. Turner Bay did a phenomenal job detailing the issues in the adult facilities in DOC in Maryland. A huge piece of the problem is access to mental health care, access to consistent mental health care, and also the fact that children, when they receive appropriate treatment and care and wraparound services, are incredibly resilient. And to really be effective at aiding children and addressing the issues that can arise due to ACEs and those childhood experiences, the services need to be offered at a young age, in a care-focused, voluntary, non-carceral manner, which is not really something and I will let Mr. Schindler speak to DJS, because DJS certainly does it much, much, much better than any of the DOC facilities. But I think, what is really what I see, and I think what all of the stories that we've heard tonight reflect, is that frequently children's first experience with violence is being a victim, and we should be meeting their needs and addressing their needs in treating them at that point, as opposed to waiting until they are a perpetrator or get involved.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mark, I know you work in the juvenile system and we'll, get to that in a minute. But I just want to touch on this. Maryland sends more kids into the adult system than any state except for Florida. By what standard does that make sense?
Well, that's a great question, Shakina. So let me start just by thanking Advanced Maryland and the coalition and my former colleagues at JPI for hosting this. I thought the film was really powerful, and I hope folks all across the state get a chance to see it. And I want to say to John and Alonzo, like, I'm just sorry for what you guys went through and how that continues to impact you. And thank you really for speaking out, because I know how difficult that must be. So the fact that you guys are here and sharing, like, that's having a tremendous impact. So I just want to say that to both of you. I think these issues are ones that we should all be grappling with, right? I mean, thinking about John and Alonzo, having gone into the adult system at such an early age, there's no standard by which that makes sense. Zero. I mean, if our goal is to have more crime and people victimized and future victims, then sending kids to the adult system makes sense. But otherwise, there's nothing that could support that, right? And, I like to think of it as a real quick 3-part test when we think about public policy, right? And so thinking about this, sending young people to the adult system, I would suggest we ask ourselves 3 questions, and we ask policymakers 3 questions. Is it effective? Is it safe? And is it fair? 3 basic questions. And that policy you just heard from John and Alonzo fails on all counts, right? It's not effective. We know from all the research, and we just sit here listening, that it results in people being more likely to commit crime and more serious crime upon release. It's so far from safe. Kids are at such high risk of sexual and physical assault and suicide in adult facilities. So it fails that test. And it unquestionably isn't fair. It does not apply equally. Kids of color, particularly African-American youth in Maryland, we're in a state that has maybe the worst racial disparities in its justice system of any state in the country. It is horribly unfair and unjust. So in answer to your question, Shakina, there's no standard by which it makes sense. And I think it fails that basic test of being effective, safe, or fair. And we should just stop it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Mark. Alonzo.
Yes.
You become a very prominent advocate for reform in Maryland and Washington, D.C. You heard what Mark just said about it not being smart, safe, or fair. Can you describe to us what would be smart, safe, and fair? What better alternatives to the current system? What do they look like? When John told his story, he said that as a young person, he did have a did you say you had a psychiatrist or a psychologist that
Both. I had both.
diagnosed him, but they didn't do anything. He had all this help, but no help. So Alonzo and John, you can also chime in on this one. Thank you. Can you describe for us what a better alternative to the current system would look like, because you've experienced it?
Okay, let's I'm gonna hit it with a couple of points, and let's look at it like this. First of all, what we're doing, and I'm not sure if any elected officials on, but I think they need to hear this. We throwing money into a black hole, because we always talking about let's lock them up, lock them up, lock them up, and they need to go to jail. No, they don't need to go to jail. First, let's look at the issue and begin to address the problem. We are looking at an issue where we have some single parents who may have 2, 3 children. So a mother may have to work 2 jobs during the week and a part-time job on the weekend. Why? To be able to put a roof over her head, pay their utility bills, and feed her children. So when you have a parent who is working 2 jobs, it may have 2 or 3 children. A child may miss school. And if you see chronic absences in the school, and that's why we need to be in touch with the school system. Because if we are not in touch with the school system now, they're going to be in touch with the criminal justice system. And so what we need to do is find out who are all these children that's missing 80, 90, 100 days of school. Once we identify these children, let's figure out what the issue is. Why this child misses school? Is there something going on in the school? They're afraid to go to school because something happened in school? Is there something going on in the home that needs to be addressed? Why this child come to school hungry? Why this child clothes ain't right? Is this child being abused? Is this child being neglected? Let's address those issues. Then we can go on and begin to fix or address some of the problems that may be going on with the child. Another thing we need to look at the age of when the children or youth start to get in trouble before they go to prison. It's their formative teenage years, between 14 and 17, high school and junior high school. Why is it in the state of Maryland, we have removed all trade programs from high school? These are the auto mechanic, welding, brick mason, carpentry, cosmetology, nursing, things like that. I can remember when you got in the 11th and the 12th grade, especially a lot of young ladies, they would get a half a day and go to work for 11th grade and 12th grade year. Now that don't happen because we have decided it's not cost effective to educate young Black children to get into the work world or to learn a trade. Why? Because states have contracts with prisons that mandate they must remain 90% full at all times. So how do you keep them 90% full? Let's not educate those who we believe from the prison, from the preschool to the prison pipeline. But what we need to do is start reinvesting in education, because when we educate our youth and give them something to do, like what happened to the after school programs, the alternatives, you know, the boys clubs, the girls clubs, the after school programs that would give them something to do to take their energy and direct it in a positive way, in a positive manner, where it will keep them off the streets, keep them off the corner, keep them from the mischievous behaviors that's going on in the community. If we really not trying to, if we really trying to address this problem, stop talking about we ain't got money for it. If you got money to keep a kid locked up at about $40,000, $50,000 a year, you got money to reinvest in the community, to reinvest in that child, to get that child a better future. So we got to look at it like that, man. We have to. If not, we're going to continue to go down this dark road. And some people, I went to a thing with in the 24th district here in Prince George's County, where state senators say, yeah, these are young Black kids we talking about, and we're going to lock them up. But then in the next voice, he said, we ain't going back to the 80s with the mass incarceration. Yes, you are. You just saying it in a more slicker, intelligent tone. Because that's what we're about to do. We're about to go back to mass incarceration of young Black boys and girls and young Latino boys and girls in the state of Maryland and across the country. 40 years ago, we did it. We ready to do it again. Because all they doing is talk about tough on crime. They want to write all these new bills. Them laws already on the books. Just enforce them. But also give our youth an opportunity to grow up, to be productive citizens in our community. And I promise you, if we educate them today, tomorrow we'll see their reward.
Thank you. Wow. So what I heard you say is, you know, directing them, you know, giving them some direction, something to do, education, support for families. Mark, does Alonzo's vision resonate with you somewhat?
Yeah.
And what do we do to kind of make them something close to them happen?
Yeah, more than somewhat. I mean, Alonzo, I can't say it better than he just said it.
Yeah.
There's just no question, right? What you're talking about, what he's talking about is how, you know, these are basic choices. How are we investing taxpayer dollars, right? I actually, Alonzo, you much lower than you, or much higher, I should say. You said 40 to 50,000 a year to lock up a young person. In Maryland, we spend per year several hundred thousands of dollars DJS facilities to incarcerate a young person, right? We can do much better by investing those dollars in community and community-based programming. You talk about education, right? Obviously, that's a huge key, right? Whether a young person is in the community or in out-of-home placement, the focus should be on education and the types of services, supports, and opportunities that we're providing for them. So absolutely, you know, Alonzo just nailed it on the head. I mean, the one thing I would add, and I do appreciate, Elizabeth, your kind words regarding DJS. I think compared to the adult system, yes, we are much, much better. Absolutely. And I would fight tooth and nail to have a young person in the juvenile system versus the adult system. But we have a lot of work to do in the juvenile system. We absolutely do. We have some staff that are trained in trauma-informed care. We are trying to do more of that and committed to that. And we will be doing that over the next several years. But we also, I think for us, when we think about what we're doing for our young people, young adults in the system, or anybody's in the system, being trauma-informed should be the minimum, right? We should be doing everything we can to make sure that we are not re-traumatizing people and having them go through traumatic experiences. But really what we should be doing is providing healing-centered care, right? It's what John was talking about, right? It's the therapy and the counseling. It's all sorts of activities that should allow young people to express what they've gone through and to have that healing process start, right? Because that's going to be, as you've heard, you know, it's a lifetime of work. So at a minimum, we should be trauma informed, but we really should be taking the next step and be healing centered as a system and as a community.
Healing centered, yes. Thank you so much. Elizabeth, we'll turn to you. How does the law need to adapt to accommodate what we've been talking about tonight?
Yeah, I think there are many ways to address the myriad issues we've discussed, but I would really highlight three that are attainable and critical, especially in Maryland right now. I would say first, we actually a few years ago passed something called the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which prevents children from prevents children who are under the age of 10 going into the juvenile justice system, and instead encourages those holistic, human-centric services, and allows for and encourages community care, parent therapy, all all of those things that really create a wraparound support system, as opposed to just getting them involved in the juvenile justice system. I think maintaining that minimum age of involvement is incredibly important, because that's where we can really get involved and stop future criminal behavior. I think the second piece, and I think Mark was speaking a little to this, is, we, again, DJS is not perfect, but right now in Maryland, we automatically charge 33 offenses, children who commit 33 offenses as adults. And so they will end up in the adult system, even if eventually they get waived back down into the juvenile justice system for the completion of their case. That automatic procedure that puts them in the adult system initially is so harmful. And we know that not only is it harmful when we consider the trauma that, occurs by being exposed to the adult system, when we consider the recidivism rate of someone who's being involved in the adult system at a young age, but also when we consider the fact that, the racial disparity that we see in our system in general in Maryland is compounded in charging children as adults. We see, I think it's 87% of the children who are charged as adults in Maryland are Black and Brown Marylanders, which is just an incredibly disparate number and extremely problematic. And then finally, this is something that the juvenile justice system has already instituted in Maryland. They have a juvenile justice monitoring unit. The adult facilities need a similar oversight system. Our office supports the Correctional Ombudsman Bill, which would offer that oversight. It also, we can't fix the problems that are being discussed without being able to see what is happening inside facilities. And right now, even as an attorney, I went into facilities all the time, and our access is so limited and so restricted. And so, judges don't understand why our clients don't do programming. Judges don't understand why they're not getting therapy, while they're not doing, but what they don't realize is how incredibly traumatic and harmful the conditions in prison themselves are right now. And yes, we need that programming, we need that therapy, we need the rehabilitative services, but we need to start with humane conditions. And right now, our facilities are not achieving that basic dignity and that basic humane treatment of the individuals who are coming into them.
Thank you. Judges don't even know that a lot of these programs don't exist. You can go to probably DPSCS website right now and see a list of things that are offered, but they just exist in form, not function. And after COVID, when they had everybody locked down for 23 hours a day, and just discontinued everything, even, some occupational and vocational groups and cognitive groups, they discontinued it then, and they never reinstated these programs. So, and judges don't know, like you said, people on the outside have no idea because it's such a controlled environment.
But not just that, for something like, let me say this, if you are serving a sentence of 10 years or greater in the state of Maryland, Maryland has a written policy that you are not eligible for no program until you are within 5 years of a release date. That is their written policy. You cannot get in any program. And also, if you are a juvenile under the age of 21, all you are entitled to is a mandatory 120 days of GED class. After 120 days of GED class, and I'm speaking from experience because I've advocated for countless men to be let back into the GED program, they can put you out, and they put many guys out, and the reason was he is not progressing fast enough. When you have a person who had lead paint poison, who was born to an addictive parent, who may have mental health issues or may have a learning disability, for you to put him out of school after 120 days because he's not progressing fast enough, according to you, that means that child now walks around with no education. And so when he go back to court or go for parole, I know a guy who has an education problem. He's been locked up for 40 years. Barely, he reading like on a 4th grade level. The parole board turned him down, and they say you don't have a GED. And his record states he reads on a 4th grade level. He stayed in school for 10 years and couldn't get the GED. And they refused to allow him to make parole after 42 years.
Okay, so I'm going to move into the Q&A, open it up for everybody. That there are actually a couple questions in here already. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A. The first one from James Lockwood asks, at what age can juveniles go into the adult system? It should be no one under 17. Elizabeth, do you want to answer that one?
I can definitely tell you that it's younger than 17. Mark might actually know better than me. I believe that we still allow some instances of 14-year-olds to go into to the adult system for what are like the most violent or serious of offenses, but we certainly allow 15, 16, and 17-year-olds. to enter into the system. Yeah. I've represented people who were 14 when they were put into the adult system.
Thank you. Okay, looks like the rest of these are more so statements than questions. And if, anyone feels so inclined to just go ahead and speak, that's okay. I have Shamika Stewart, you dropped a couple things in the Q&A. Someone asked, does Jessup have therapy? No.
I was
It does not.
released.
They have a psychiatric department, a mental health department, but primarily they dispense psych meds. So,
They get therapy. They get therapy from other inmates. Talking to older ones, will talk to them and guide them a little bit, and see where they're at. Because in any type of form of therapy or anything, true victory comes through surrendering. And if a person does not want to surrender because the lack of trust or the environment that if he or she develops or states something that is weak in prison, they may not because you have to go deeper than that, because you have to show these individuals as mentoring that it's all right, to feel the way that you feel, and that but the way that you act is a different story, and how you the application to it. So teaching has to come no matter what. If you're in prison or even if you're out, you have to teach. Mentoring, psychological therapy, all those things have a play in it, but it does not have a play in prison. It's the inmates.
Yeah, it's the inmates at the Maryland Correctional Institution for Women. For about 23 years, they had a very progressive chaplain who recognized the need within the prison, and she sort of launched a counseling program by bringing in faith-based mental health experts. The prison eventually shut it down, which is a disgrace, because that was really the only treatment that women could get outside of going in and having the doctor prescribe even bigger dose of whatever psych med they were on. But it was really, really helpful when we did have the program, and I think she brought in about 4 different counselors who were also ministers.
But can I say this? And let's be frank, let's be honest. It's not in the best interest of DOC in the state to give us therapy. It's not in the best interest of DOC in the state to give us treatment, to give us education. That's why the Pell Grants removed in the 90s, or to give us trade programs and shops. The reason why it would cut down on the recidivism. The reason why it will begin to aid and assist the men and women in prison to better their lives, to make better choices, make better decisions, and aid and aim their life in a direction where recidivism won't be. You get I left Jessup, JCI, Jessup Correctional Institute. For the past 5 years before I got released, correctional officers used to have a running bet. Each correctional officer would put up a certain amount of money, and they would be betting, and whoever at the end of the year made the most money would get the pot. They was working overtime, 2 shifts every day. This corrections is about money. It's a game to many people, but on the other end, other people's lives are at stake. So giving us treatment, giving us therapy, you got to start from the top on down. You got to clean house with those who have been around 30, 40, 50 years in DOC. You've been around 40 years when they was kicking their way to the top, and I mean literally stomping inmates out and got their rank. You got to clear out the house. You got to clean the house out from the administrators, from the psychologists, from the therapists, and then begin to rebuild with those who believe that the men and women that they are overwatched with can be rehabilitated, can change, and can live a better life. If you don't do that with those who are in authority, we're going to be doing the same thing, putting the dollar in a black hole, and we're going to be causing more trauma to the men and women who come inside of Maryland Division of Correction.
Thank you. We have about, let's see, 6 more questions in here or so. This one is for someone who is wanting to bring awareness to these barriers. What would be your personal suggestions or guidance on next steps? Anyone can take that one.
I think there are so many good ways to get involved. As Shakina mentioned, I'm a teacher as well. And what I always say is do what fits for you. So if you are someone who's comfortable talking, who's comfortable, meeting with people, meet with your elected officials, meet with your city, county council members, speak to them, spread the word that way. Some people don't like doing that. If you are interested in writing, do an op-ed. If you are interested in getting further involved, you can always reach out to coalitions like MyJC and other, organizations. There are so many fantastic grassroots organizations working throughout the state of Maryland that you can also offer to volunteer with, and raise awareness about their efforts. I think it really really focus on the education piece and doing what is most comfortable for you in your advocacy, and that might be something as simple as making sure everyone in your family knows, right? I know I've spent a lot of holidays being a little bit on a soapbox there, and it makes a difference. It does. And so really whatever is my opinion is whatever is most comfortable for you and whatever feels like the right fit for you is what you should pursue.
Can I say this? Let me say this. I think one of the ways we can work with this thing is, first, let's stop giving all these children all this power. We are their parents, we are the adults, we're not their friends. We can't smoke, even though marijuana is legal, don't smoke weed with your children. Don't allow your children to smoke weed in your house. If you know your son ain't going to school, your daughter ain't going to school, find out why. Ask questions. When you're not asking questions of your children, in some kind of way, you are saying what you're doing is okay. Your son don't have a driver's license, but he's driving a car up and down the street. Your son don't have a job, but he wearing clothes and shoes that cost $200-300. Ask questions on where this come from. Because when you sit by silently, some way your child look at you and say, my parents think it's okay. Because you're not getting involved, you're not saying something. These are our children, and as adults, as parents, as fathers, as mothers, as grandparents, aunts and uncles, we got to show them that we are concerned. We got to show them that we love them, we care about them, we respect them. But most of all, we're going to get involved when needed and necessary. And when we don't get involved with our children's lives, when something happened, first they say, he was an old good kid and he did it. No, your child done some things, and you're a part of the reason why, because we stand by and don't say nothing. We stand by, don't do nothing. We stand by, we don't get involved. Not just with our children, our nieces, our nephews, and even the children in the community. Man, say something. We got to stop being afraid of our children in our community, in our neighborhoods, and in our lives. We, as adults, as parents, we got to become involved. Do not wait until the handcuffs are placed on them, and then you say something.
No question.
Say something now,
Parenting.
and we can, say something now, so we can prevent the police kicking in your door next year looking for that youth. Let's get involved as adults and stop waiting on the system to do anything for us.
Right, we have a really good question here. What services are available to children who are victims of crime? This kind of touches on your experience, Alonzo, seeing what was going on in your community, seeing what happened with your uncle, John, with you as well. What services are available to children who are victims of crime? Are these available through victim services, for example? I'm imagining there are high barriers to kids assessing these, especially in under-resourced communities. So something awful happens to a child. We see every day about some, crime of violence, gunshot victim, younger and younger.
There are no resources. That's why I was talking about let's
There
let's
isn't.
stop putting all the money, $100,000 per child or $200,000 as Mark said per child. Why is we putting it in the criminal justice system? Why we can't have therapists in school? Why we can't have social workers in school that each grade may have two. If you're in the 5th grade, it's 2 social workers, split them up by alphabets or whatever, or may have 3. And so we can talk to our children. Let's talk to them before they become victims. Because sometimes I can catch a child before he become a victim, because once he get to talking, he telling me he hanging out with the wrong crowd. So as a social worker, as a therapist, as a educator, as an adult, I can now gear you or direct you into another direction. But because we done moved into this new era now, or this new way of doing things now, where we are taking the resources out of the school, and the resources, I'm talking about human beings, individuals that can help our children, and we're putting that somewhere else, we are now losing our youth. Let's talk to them before they become victims of crime. Let's talk to them before they become perpetrators of crime. In order to do that, let's put sociologists, therapists, psychologists, or whatever their title may be, inside of the school system. Because education is not just about the curriculum. Let's
Okay,
find out
so,
what's going on.
all right, so
Let's
I'm going
find
to
out
give
what's going
somebody
on
else a chance to
inside.
chime in on this one, Alonzo. About victims. Okay, so he said, talk to your child before your child becomes a victim.
I think John was,
What does that
I think
mean?
John was
Because,
trying to get in.
yeah,
Well, my step granddaughter, Lord forbid, she went to shepherd practice recently, and I had a long, long talk with her, a serious talk with her, and she knows what I did. She's 12 years old, and I had explained to her the things that never was explained to me, and just showing love and showing her concern, hearing her out, not forcing her to talk, but not talking at her, but with her. You know what I mean? And I just extended my hand to her and I said, look, you need to stop. This is the reason why. I said, look at this picture when I was 15. Look at me now. Decisions that I've made are detrimental to your well-being. You have to take control of your life by accepting things and doing things and not being people pleasers, not trying to please people. Please yourself. Show that you love yourself first before you can love anybody else. Give her some standards. Tell her when she's wrong. Give her a way of escape. These children don't have a way of escape. They don't see the other side of the flip side of their decisions. And I try to do that with her, and it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult because they want what they want and they see what they see and they want it no matter what. And you have to pause and you have to give them, I believe that you have to treat them with love, respect, and sometimes you have to put your hands on them, not to hurt them, but to correct them, to show them that this is what you did wrong and this is what needs to be corrected. And like Alonzo was saying, school, if we had all these things, we got money for stadiums, lottery money for millions of billions of dollars going to, fixing the city. Why not fix our kids with some of that money?
on that note, going to this next question that someone asked. It appears that there is a lot of hot, angry speech circulating in Annapolis this session about kids committing crimes, very similar to the super predator days of the 1990s, and I would even say 1980s too. When we speak with some of these Maryland legislators, what in your experience works best to get them to see that locking up kids is not the best option? what in our experience works best to get them to see that locking up kids is not the best option.
I'm not sure this always works, but what I think is important to consistently touch on, and actually there was another mention of mandating services or mandating resources. And I think starting with the reminder that kids' brains are legitimately fundamentally different from that of adults, right? Like a 5-year-old's brain is fundamentally different from a 10-year-old's brain, is fundamentally different from a 15-year-old's brain. So we, we've recently been discussing services with programs like the Youth Advocate Program, and they don't have mandatory services. The services aren't mandatory, but what they do have is intensive supportive mentorship in therapy. And so they have these 2-to-1 systems where there are only 2 children who report to every mentor. The mentors are credible messengers. They're people from their community. They're people that understand their experiences, and they spend up to 20 hours a week with the child, working with the child, getting them the resources that they need. And we don't need those resources or services to be mandatory. When you have a 10-year-old who really at their core is looking for that guidance, that support, and to have their needs met. Even it is rare for me to speak highly of a police department or a police initiative, but the Anne Arundel County Police Department has recently introduced a DART program that does not have a mandatory component to it. It doesn't require any charges or adjudication for the child, but they're finding that children and their parents want to be involved because they do simple things such as offer a hot dinner when the child comes and receives services and the parent comes and receives services. So the parent doesn't have to cook that night, right? Or they also offer children nice clothing to attend their completion of the program that they can also use for future job interviews or future other events where they can feel proud of themselves and look back at all they've accomplished. And those sorts of resources and those sorts of support systems are incredibly effective. We don't need the threat of jail to get a 10-year-old the services they need. They need the care and support that exists in so many services, and that can and should be absolutely independent of the carceral system. I know Alonzo was talking about education. Social workers in schools are a huge one, right? Having those resources. We also know that schools are one of the most often referrals for local care teams and other community resources that do plug those children into their services. We know that children go to school, and that is where a lot of these problems can initially be identified, right? And so we need to make sure that we are immediately providing services and care in response, as opposed to, trying to treat them the same way that we would treat a 25-year-old who may be, engaging in the same behavior.
Anybody else? And it doesn't have to be someone on the panel to answer to that question, because I know there are a lot of advocates in the audience who may have some expertise in this area, may have some suggestions on how to deal directly with lawmakers. None? Okay, there's no more questions in the Q&A. I'm scrolling through the chat.
I think
Someone
panels
mentioned
like
something
this,
about Perkins having mental health treatment. Perkins is kind of
the psychiatric
it's a bit of
hospital.
an it's a bit of an outlier here, because it is technically a psychiatric hospital. I know people go there for mental health assessments when they're pre-trial, for instance, trying to prove that they were incompetent to stand trial,
Right.
to go through stuff like that. People who may have extraordinarily, quote unquote, heinous crimes are there. It is a mental a psychiatric hospital that holds people there for a very, very, very long time. So that would not be, considered an alternative. Let's see, here's one here.
I think this documentary and a panel with elected officials and members that's on here will be a good way to start. Let's sit down with some elected officials, show them this type of thing, and let's see the feedback we get from them. With more individuals who were juveniles when they went into the system. It can be in person or even on Zoom, and let's see and let them see what's happening in the system, because it's not what they think it is.
Okay, so we are at 8:25. So I'm going to turn it over to
Can I
Alex.
just
Thank
jump
you.
in for a minute?
Yes, please.
This is Delegate Pasteur. Okay, I just want to respond to the last piece, and I apologize, but I'm in another meeting as well. But I just wanted to jump in on the last thing that was said, because before being a delegate, I was an educator, always a teacher, but a school administrator, and an administrator in a school where a lot of students had a number of issues. And I kept an attorney's phone number on my desk for any occasion that a child needed some support, and some other numbers on my desk as well, so that they could get services. I've heard people talk about when a child comes to school and is hungry, that's a red flag. We kept food in my office for that, because that's a red flag. Someone in one of the hearings or briefings that I've heard, I asked a question about the importance of education, and someone said the children don't go to school, okay, and then moved on. Well, I'm gonna tell you, that's a source of irritation to me, because if you know that there's a child or children who don't come to school, that's a red flag. You reach out and you process why that child's not coming to school. How can we support them? We need more social workers in our schools, more psychologists in our schools. Some of what we saw on that film could have been abated if there were those kinds of practitioners in the school, and if someone were paying attention, one, to whether the child was coming to school, that young lady was coming to school, what was the condition, what was the mental condition, in addition to which, not just the schools, but what are the activities that we have had in our past that are no longer funded, that we have had in our communities, so that children can go to those activities after school, before school, etc. Socialize, interact, meet people who can support them, who recognize trauma and stress and support them. Those are the things we do need to have conversations about. We have a lot of conversations about what to do with the children when they have committed the crimes, but not enough conversations about, as someone said tonight, what we can do with our children before they commit a crime. So this is one delegate. You don't have to convince. I've been working with children. One of my favorite students then, 18 years later, 18 years he spent in prison. So been working with him through that whole time. And he's a good father of 4 children. So we do need to change some of the rhetoric, some of the vision, and understand that if we spend this much time talking about what to do with children who've committed crimes, we need to spend that much more time talking about how to help them not to commit crimes. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you, Delegate Pasteur. On that note, we can close. Alice, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. You've all been wonderful.
Yeah.
There was one more question in the chat. Someone asked, what jobs take justice impacted people on the way out? If you can answer that, anyone, I really don't know.
Well, I work in trying to help many get jobs. And let me say this, we have a bill that was passed in Maryland. It said ban the box, but in all reality, it's not working. I've had one client with an employer call and ask who was their co-defendant. ask them about the crime. So it's like the jobs are not as plethora as they are. It's like a lot of manual jobs, things of that nature. And like, I'm trying to start a business, a cleaning business where I can hire returning citizens. But one thing I'm finding out, it's hard to get contracts. So it's not a lot of jobs, at least jobs that can help us pay rent. A lot of us are taking jobs that paying $13 an hour, $14, and so we're taking 2 of those. So it's not a lot of jobs. Even in the state of Maryland, they say that they are returning citizen friendly and they are hiring, but in all reality, they're not. And to the state delegate, Delegate Pastoral, I'd like to get in contact with you after this panel. Maybe we can talk.
Thank you, Delegate.
Uh,
All right.
I also like to say, you know, Mid-Atlantic bakeries are, you know, second chance people. They have diversity people in here, and they hire people. They hired me just to say that, you know, they pay $18 an hour, $27 overtime. They are a fantastic group of people. They allowed me to be in this office talking to you all now because they see the purpose of what I'm, you know, what I stand for. And I have the company backing me up, you know, and I'm at work right now doing this,
Wow.
you know. What job is going to let you spend 2 hours away from work to, you know, unless they see that vision? And also, I just like to say this to any person that's out there that's listening. I want people to know that, you know, quitters never finish and finishers never quit. Failure is not final.
Not an option.
Delay is not denial. And victims can become victorious.
All right.
Give with
Alan?
someone.
Those are awesome words to end on. Thank you, John.
Yes.
And thank you again to Delegate Pasteur. Delegate Bartlett was also able to join us earlier, which was great. We know that she has been a great champion and a sponsor of some of the reforms that we have passed. So, you know, what can you do next? How can you be involved? How can you advocate yourself? You know, we want to invite you to, you can capture this QR code. You can go to our website. We can also drop that information in the chat for folks. We have an action alert right now so that you can click on this link and it will take you to a page that will automatically send a note from you to your legislators asking them to stand up for the reforms that we have passed, that we don't repeal any of the laws right now, and we don't go backwards to locking up younger kids under the age of 10. We don't want to be locking them up for nonviolent offenses. Same thing for kids under the age of 13. So, you know, there are ways to get involved. And the Maryland Youth Justice Coalition is always looking for people who want to join us. And then we are always providing information about what legislation is coming up during session, how you can talk to your legislators about it. And not to overlook, you know, we did have, I know at least one staff person from Council Member Lorianne Sales' office here with us. Our county councils are also important places to be doing this advocacy. There are a lot of conversations that are happening at the local level as well as the state level. And so stay in touch with us. You can follow us on social media as well to stay up to date with what we're doing. And thank you so much to all of our panelists. This has been amazing. Thank you, Shakina. You've been great at leading us through this conversation, and partnering with Justice Policy Institute on this has really been excellent. And so thank you everyone for coming out tonight and joining us.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that bring the trauma. Overseas, yeah, we trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living in the USA, the big CIA, the Bloods and the Crips and the KKK. But if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate, and to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness demonstrate. And that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love just to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. When you practice what you preach and what you turn the other cheek. Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love?
It just ain't the same, always in change. New days are strange, is the world insane? If love and peace is so strong, why are the pieces of love that don't belong? Nations dropping bombs, chemical gases.
Alrighty, I removed everyone.
Thank
Oh,
you so
Shakina, I
much.
think you're muted, but thank you so much. Shakina, you're muted. We can't hear you.
You're great.
I was just screaming, thank you, we did it, it's over. That's all I was
Yeah.
saying. Let my cat do whatever it is he's crying to do.